Welcome back to Path to Glory, the Warhammer Underworlds podcast that focuses on competitive gaming, player development, and community growth. This episode was made possible by our patrons, so thanks to everyone who supports us. If you're interested in supporting the podcast monetarily, please check us out at patreon.com/Path to Glory. If that's not possible, we still appreciate the listens and the ratings. This is Aman Khusro, and as always, I am joined by my crustacean co-host, Jonathan Davis.
Hello.
Where are your little crustaceous pincers at? There you go.
Yeah. No.
Do it for the fans.
Feeling extra fishy today.
Yeah, usually more so than usual,
Yeah.
because for those of you who are not aware, Jonathan's moniker on the Discords is Wigglefish,
Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
and there's something wiggling in this warband today.
A few things, actually.
That's true. A couple things. There's a bunch of wiggles. Okay, well, Jonathan, why don't you kick us off with some announcements?
Yeah, we do have some announcements. We have 2 new patrons. Thanks to John and Victor for supporting us. We really appreciate it.
Shout out to John and Victor. Thanks. So in today's episode, we'll be doing the Warband review for Elathane's Soul Raid, covering the fighters, objectives, gambits, upgrades, and what we think how they might be played in the current meta. That is quite dire indeed.
Yeah, we've made it to the end, the 10th warband this season.
Can we just talk about that for a second?
Sure.
I feel like, first of all, we went through an entire season of Warhammer Underworlds without any sort of balance update.
In about 6 months.
In about 6 months, which is insane.
Yeah.
And I just felt like these last, so when the Seraph or the Ravagers came out, there was a gap, right? And then the Seraphon came out. It was like 3 to 4 weeks. I think there was like a delay. And then I thought, well, maybe they'll just do, the same weekend every month, and then end of April, beginning of May, end of May, beginning of June. And I'm just like 4 weeks, 4 warbands, or 5 weeks. And I still have some of them unbuilt, man.
I've been able to keep up with the building, but that's about it. I've played maybe 2 games in the last 2 weeks, and not very many the week before that. So it's just been a busy month for me, and then the release schedule is intense.
Yeah, and I've been really wanting to write other articles for our blog, and talk about things on this podcast other than just doing reviews.
Yeah.
But because Games Workshop sends us these review copies for free, and we have to mention that now based on the last email, that we are obligated to review this stuff. That's kind of how that works. So obviously we enjoy it, and I think it does I guess bring views and stuff, but I don't know if it's something that we just want our content to solely be based around. Right?
Yeah. Well, I know for me, I would like the meta to kind of stabilize, and then I need to play, and then I'll have more to talk about. So
yeah. Well, we'll get our chance, because if we look at previous, assuming that things go back on track, we'll have until the fall. So actually, it's not really far away, but I guess 2-3 months before.
Yeah, we should have a couple months at least.
They announce another season, if they indeed do. But let's stay on the current season, the 4th season, Dire Chasm, and let's go ahead and jump into these fighter cards. Actually, before we do that, let's look at some of these miniatures. We're going to be referencing the Warhammer community article, Elathane's Soul Raid are prepared to surge through Dire Chasm with these cards. And people say they don't like puns. This title is full of puns. But what do you think about the ensemble, this cast of fighters here?
They're interesting. I think that I like all of the models individually. I don't know if I feel like they really look like they go together that much, as much as some of the other warbands do.
Yeah,
It's kind of a motley crew of characters here.
I agree. Like, I like the three elven figures. Like, they all have matching armor.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Um, and like if there wasn't like an eel floating by Elethane, or there wasn't like barnacles on the ground, I would just think like, why is there a giant crab and a fish there? But then on the other hand, I'm like, yo, dude, my boy Jonathan made it. It's his Underworld's debut.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know. I don't know, man. You had a great season, dude. Team Jonathan with the vampires,
Oh,
and then you had Wigglefish with the spine fish over here. Look at you living
that's
life.
true.
I
I
just
picked
need
the
a
right
werewolf
game to
world.
play, I guess, right?
You picked the right teams. You picked the right teams. Team Amon / Jacob is struggling right now. There are no werewolves. Okay, well let's jump into these miniatures. I think they look pretty cool. I really like them. I think they have a lot
Yeah.
of character. They're very unique. Motley is a great adjective, and I think we all are excited to bow down to our Lord and Savior, the Crab. So
Sure, we'll see if he's any good.
yeah, we'll see if he's good. Okay, well let's start with our fearless leader here, Elethane Ill-Fated. For those of you who are unaware, the lore behind the Idoneth Deepkin, which is the faction from which these miniatures hail, they have some daddy issues with Teclis, and who is a god of light. And he removed the souls from Slaanesh, because Slaanesh, when the world got destroyed, Slaanesh got so fat because Slaanesh ate all the elven souls. So the three elven gods banded together, captured Slaanesh between the realms of light and shadow, and slowly started pulling out souls and then recreating them in their own image. So this was Teclis's first go. And because I guess they were so traumatized in terms of like recency, because they were the most recent to get eaten, they hadn't got used to it. They were shook, I guess, and they just like never really met his expectations. And so they've got a real serious father-son dilemma here. And so they ran away to the bottom of the ocean where they all can now breathe underwater. And Tamael, we'll pronounce his name later properly, is one of the, I guess, ill-fated, if you will, because they're born with no souls. So they literally jump out of the ocean, use magic to let themselves and underwater creatures breathe, and then attack people and take their souls so they can use their souls to give their people souls. So that's why it's a real morbid vibe over here. But that's why he's ill-fated.
So does that work in Underworlds if they have the curse? Do they still have souls? Can they get a soul?
Well, I think there's a special rule on Tamael's card that kind of helps with the whole soul concept.
Yeah.
But there's no like counters. They're not reaping souls or anything. I think that'd be a really cool mechanic for maybe like a larger warband.
Yeah.
But with three elves, a crab, and a fish, it's kind of difficult, I think. But okay, so let's go into Elethane Ill-Fated.
Sure.
He has the keyword Idoneth, and he has the keyword Hunter. So always nice to see the Hunter keyword. Makes the warband have access to some better cards, or at least easier access to certain cards. He's got a melee attack, 3 smash, 2 damage. Has a special rule called Soul Harvest. Reaction, after this attack action, if it takes an enemy fighter out of action, and there is no friendly Tamael on the battlefield, place the friendly Tamael on a starting hex in your territory. So I guess this is that kind of soul reaping thing. So kill someone with your leader, and you can bring one of your fighters back. So that's pretty neat. He's also got a net, because he's holding a net, a soul net. 3 range, 2 fury, 1 damage. This also has the Soul Harvest special rule. Unlike other nets in the game, it doesn't drop move or charge tokens. Little upsetting, but he's got an insanely accurate attack action with 3 smash.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of leaders have 3 smash this expansion. Range 4, or movement 4, 1 block, 4 wounds. It's nice to see elven leaders with 4 wounds. When he inspires. Now, let's talk about the inspiration mechanic, I think, before we kind of dig any deeper. So the entire warband has the inspiration mechanic called, or it just says, it is the second round.
Yeah.
And then On their inspired side, it says Ebb Tide. At the start of the third round, this fighter is uninspired. So for those of you familiar with how they play in Age of Sigmar and the whole concept behind like a wave crashing down on you, you know, they comes in, there's a surge, there's a peak, and then it goes back into the ocean. And that's the whole concept of how they play in Age of Sigmar, where they get stronger mid game, but then weaker towards the end of the game. Same concept here. What do you think about this mechanic? Aside from the fact that I think it's extremely unique.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool cool effect. I think we'll have to see how powerful it is. I mean, I think a lot of warbands would take this inspire condition.
Yeah.
It's similar to me. Kind of reminds me of Wild Hunt, because a lot of the time you will inspire a lot of them in the second round. And then uninspiring in the third round isn't great, but by then you should have upgrades and you should have, hopefully you've already taken the big targets down. So I don't know if it's that much of a downside. So I think this is a pretty good inspired condition. It'll just depend, specifically on what are we getting from being inspired, in each specific case.
Yeah. I think for me, when I play most games of Underworlds or watch them, most of the action happens in the second and third round of the game.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, like, this is really cool because you can kind of just jump in there. You can take your time to power up, play a little cagey, jump on some objectives, get that glory, and then you can guarantee that it's inspire going into the second round, cause as much havoc and damage as you can, or disruption, and then fall back on your initial stats, which, as you mentioned, bolstered by upgrades, don't seem that bad. At least with Elethane. One thing that we didn't mention is that he does have a special rule called Flood Tide. When activated, this fighter can make a move or charge token if it has one or fewer move tokens.
Yeah.
So essentially, they can move twice or then move and then charge. Which is really cool. Very similar to Mollog in that concept, but more balanced because it's not a 4 damage, 7 wound fighter. So let's look at his inspired stats. The Talon Sickle gets ensnare and cleave.
Yeah.
The Soul Net gets ensnare and it goes to 3 fury. He's got 5 move. And nothing really else changes. He's only on 1 block still. And then we get that Ebb Tide special rule. So
yeah, but we lose the Flood Tide ability.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're inspired, but you don't have the Ebb Tide. I mean the Flood Tide. Yeah. So you're not quite as mobile. But cleave and ensnare on the main attack is really good. Makes this guy really, really accurate.
Yeah. I like how the whole concept is like, I'm going to spend the first turn move.
Mm-hmm.
And then second turn, I get my, maybe an attack or a nice charge. And then, maybe third round, I can move a charge or whatever, So I really like the mobility behind this warband. And I think you have to be really smart and strategic about placement and your target priority.
Yeah. Yeah. I think maybe not specifically on this fighter, but on some of the other ones as well. It's nice having the option for the Flood Tide, just to be able to spend an activation like that. So
yeah,
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And then inspired, this guy at least is gonna hit probably.
Yeah, 3 smash and snare cleave.
Yeah.
He's a great target for a great strength and maybe even a glory seeker.
Yeah.
Very, very. I mean, even a fighter's ferocity.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Very, very cool fighter who helps bring back another fighter. But before we get to that fighter, let's get to Furon. She is an Ideneth. She is a hunter. She has a Hell Saber. 1 block, 3 fury, 2 damage. She's got the Flood Tide special rule. Same inspire condition. It's the second round. 4 move, 2 dodge, and 3 wounds. When she inspires, her Hell Saber goes to 3 smash, 2 damage. So she becomes insanely more accurate. Or actually, you might want to do the math on that because at one point I think there is. Obviously, it's better, but how much better? because at 3 dice you're trying to crit more, but we can talk about that in a second. 5 move, 2 block. So 2 big stat switches off the bat. Goes from Fury to Smash and Dodge to block. What do you think about Furon?
Yeah. I mean, she's a decent fighter, I think. Um, but not really anything to write home about, I guess. The I think being able to move and then charge in the first round is really nice because maybe you can sit her on an objective and then charge after you scored something else. Um, only 3 wounds, is kind of annoying. I think she may die early on in the game. In the second round, she does get much, much more durable, which I do like, and the more accurate is good too. But I feel like it's going to be similar to Wild Hunt with Shiok.
Yes.
That's basically a slightly more durable Shiok, which is a good thing, I guess.
I mean, yeah, Shiok's pretty good,
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you compare to the current meta, yes, Shiok isn't or Furin aren't like the best fighters out there, but I think it's a great secondary elf stat line. Like,
Yeah.
3 wounds seems like what they're gonna go for most elves. So I like the
Yeah.
vibe and I like her a lot.
And I don't really expect her to stick around into the third round anyway. But if she does, like, she's still solid.
Yeah.
Um, I guess so far on both of these fighters that we've looked at so far, the range one is probably their biggest limitation.
Yeah.
But I guess being able to move and then charge helps a little bit
Yeah.
when they're not inspired. So
I also think it's funny that on her inspired side we have like fluff text. I haven't seen fluff text on a fighter card in a long time.
yeah, that's true. There's usually too many rules.
Too many rules, so
Yeah.
they went somewhat simple. Though I think the rules are very unique. They don't need much addition, but yeah. Interesting fact. Okay, well let's go to Tamael. I'm gonna go with Tamael.
Yeah.
He's Ideneth. He is Hunter. Range 2, 2 smash, 2 damage. Pretty solid. Throne Harpoon. Actually, so let's go back to the Riptide Harpoon. So has a special rule called Riptide. In the drive back step, push the target 1 hex instead of driving the target back. So I think we've seen that with the Archer from the Dread Pageant.
Yeah.
Kind of does the same thing. And then we go to the Throne Harpoon. 3 range, 3 fury, 1 damage. Same with the Riptide ability, which is pretty neat. But it also has the impact special rule, so +1 damage when made during this fighter's charge action. So, might be the word or the keyword for the future. Impact right there. For abilities like these. 4 move, 1 dodge, 3 wounds. After the second round, when Tamael inspires, his Riptide Harpoon stays the same, except he gets Ensnare. And his Throne Harpoon also gets Ensnare. Aside from that, he goes to 5 move and 2 dodge. Stays at 3 wounds.
And loses
keep in mind,
the Flood Tide.
Yeah, loses the Flood Tide. Keep in mind that this is the one that can be brought back to life if Elethane, your leader, gets a kill and uses his reaction.
Yeah, exactly. That's cool. It's interesting that the inspired side just gets Ensnare. Ensnare is great if you can attack something with dodge, but it's a little bit situational.
He gets 2 dodge.
Yeah, he does get the dodge, which is nice. I wonder if the enemy will try to kill this guy too early, lest he, just come back and then get to charge again. But he's pretty solid. I mean, range 2 is nice. Damage with 2 damage is nice, and I like the javelin, the Throne Harpoon.
Yeah, I do too. I think when you want to compare this fighter to like a Blue Horror or like a Skaven that can come back or a Grimwatch.
Yeah, maybe.
I feel like he's pretty good. If that's his role is to come back and be annoying. He's pretty, but in an aggressive manner, which I think Skaven do really well, and sometimes even Grimwatch. Then, I think this is pretty solid. Like I like the stat line, and I look forward to seeing how often he does come back, if it's worth bringing him back, and But at the very least, that 2 range is nice because he's threat range of 6 off the bat. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. Right off the bat, I would think that I would use him aggressively early in the game, maybe stand him on an objective or something, and then hope that he does end up dying, and then, hope to bring him back like once,
Yeah.
maybe twice. So,
Fun fact: this warband loves bursts of speed and long strider.
yeah, that's true.
So if you're playing Relic, throw them both
I
in
would
there.
like that. Yeah.
Well, now that we've gotten the elves out of the way, I think let's go to the main attraction right here. Doing Claw is a crab. He's 3 move, 2 block, which is pretty solid. Gives me the Stalag Squig vibe, and 3 wounds. He's got a Crushing Claw, which is a range 1, 2 fury, 2 smash attack. He inspires in the second round. He's got a Beast special rule. This fighter cannot be given attack action upgrades and cannot hold objectives. Interesting to note, he does not have the Hunter keyword or the Ideneth keyword. And he's got a reaction called Scuttle. After another friendly fighter's activation, push this fighter 1 hex closer to that fighter, which is a great mental image in my mind. When Doing Claw inspires, his Crushing Claw goes to 3 fury and gains the Cleave ability, because he's got some pincers. Other than that, nothing else changes for Krabby Patty.
Yeah, that's true.
What do you think about Doing Claw? Does he live up to the hype?
I don't think that he does. I mean, he looks cool.
Yeah, he does.
But I would say this. I mean, in the first round, there's really not a lot going on here. I guess is my thought here. I do think that you can get him into position pretty well, because the other fighters are going to be activating. I suspect you're going to activate one of the elves at least twice.
Yes.
Because of the double move, the move and then charge, and it's possible you're going to end up doing that, twice with 2 elves. And so he'll be able to scoot around with the Scuttle ability. And I like that. And then once inspired, I like that he kind of makes up for the ensnare on the other fighter with Cleave.
Tamael.
Yeah, so one of them will be very accurate. So I do like that. Other than that, I mean, the 2 block is nice. 3 wounds is not great, but the 2 block might make up for it. So.
Yeah, I mean he's a better Stalag Squig, and we all know how annoying and sticky Stalag Squig can be sometimes, right?
Yeah.
I think
not
one
a bad
of the
fighter.
No, not a bad fighter at all. I think one of the cool things about this fighter is he's got a Scuttle reaction, and that Scuttle reaction kind of it actually shares the same window with the Elathane's like Soul Harvest ability.
Yeah, that's true.
So if Tamael is out of action and Elathane gets a kill, you have to pick between bringing Tamael back or scuttling with, I guess, Doing Claw, which I don't know if there's much of a choice there, but who knows? He might be able to deny an objective or something that could win you the game. So
yeah, it depends on the situation, I think. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting fighter. I don't really want to charge with him in the first round, but if you do, I guess with proper positioning in the second round, maybe you can get some attacks off by pushing around next to people. I sort of think the strategy with this warband will be to inspire and then charge 4 times if you can.
Yeah.
So
I also think he's good bait.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he's pretty tanky, so more often than, I think half the time he'll probably survive. And then provide you support or he dies, which is unfortunate. But you'll get a nice counter charge, maybe more than one, you know. So
yeah, 2 block is usually pretty frustrating. So
unless they've got Cleave, which you hate. Last fighter. It's not really a fighter actually at all, if you think about it.
only in the very technical sense, yeah.
Yeah, quite literally, it is a fighter. But
yeah.
So let's take a look at Spinefin. We've got a movement of 0, 1 dodge, and 1 wound. And has the Inspire. It's the second round. But he's got a couple rules here, and he's got no attack action profiles. So, small fry, you can decide not to set up this fighter during setup. This fighter cannot make actions, be given upgrades, or hold objectives. If it would be taken out of action, remove it from the battlefield and clear all counters and persisting effects from this fighter. It is not taken out of action. Now there's a second rule. So let's clarify what small fry means.
Sure.
Okay. If you kill the fighter, you don't get glory. It's just removed from the battlefield, and it loses any effects and tokens. It wouldn't have any upgrades. Can't hold objectives. We're there so far. Can't make any actions either. So second rule is Shoal. Misery action. After an opponent's power step, pick one. Remove all friendly Shoal tokens from the battlefield and place a Shoal token in an empty hex, or place this fighter in an empty hex that contains a friendly Shoal token and remove that token. You can take this reaction even if this fighter is not on the battlefield. So essentially what this means is Spinefish can just kind of pop around wherever you place a Shoal counter. So if Spinefish is not on the board, you place your opponent ends their power step, you place a Shoal counter, and then in their second power step, you can place the Spinefish.
Right.
Or conversely, if the Shoal counter is already on the table, then you can just play the Spinefish.
Or you could move the Shoal counter and then put the Spinefish down later.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. If this fighter is out of action, it uninspires in the third round. Just like, it's a good important justification because like if a fighter is out of action, then technically they don't uninspire. Right. But in this case, it'll always uninspire. When it inspires, it's 2 dodge. So what do we make of Spinefin?
It's interesting. It basically doesn't do anything except give support.
Yeah.
Or if you have cards that need you to have a fighter next to somebody, or need you to have a fighter in a position like enemy territory, it works for all of those things.
I think you hit the nail on the head here. Like the Warcom article said that like, they'll think twice when they're forced to contend with blocked hexes where they least expect them. Like that doesn't matter. It's also highly telegraphed, so like, that doesn't matter. I think it's more about as you mentioned, supports, which you kind of have to set up. So I don't even know if you really get those supports more often than not. Maybe you can anticipate preemptively or use some pushes. So really, you're right. This is more about, did I get any assisting fighter, or do I have all my enemy fighters or friendly fighters in enemy territory, or do I have one in enemy territory, one in no man's land, whatever. It's interesting, but ultimately, I'm not sure if there's much use for the Spinefish.
Well, I actually do think the support aspect is very, very powerful. Because if you put the Shoal token, in between 2 enemy fighters, I mean, I guess they can block the Shoal token, but then you just move it. So it's probably not worth their activation to block it. Or you could put it next to an objective that you think they're going to go on to. And then when they do, then you just put the fish down and then you get to charge and get support. You can also do like lead bone dust or other things that happen to a fighter or near a fighter.
That's actually a really good point. And I was talking about that to somebody earlier today, and I completely blanked on that. But the Spinefin is a great poison delivery system. Yeah.
And I mean, even things like center of attention, like just anything where you need a fighter in a certain area, and it can sometimes be hard to do. If you plan it out, you can get a fighter anywhere you want. So I think there's something. I mean, I almost look at it like it's a free ability this warband gets, because like the other fighters are decent. Maybe they're paying like half of a fighter worth for this thing. And I think if you have it set up in the right place, then it can be useful. And the opponent really has no incentive to attack it, to spend an activation to attack it, because it doesn't. doesn't die. You can't score anything off of that, really, and you don't get any glory. And it's just going to come right back.
Yeah, the only time I can think of like this fighter would be attacked is if like you're playing a card like your opponent's playing a card like Keep Chopping, where it's
Yeah,
like
that's true.
they need something in range to attack, whether or not
Hmm.
they get the kill doesn't matter. Or like correct me if I'm wrong, but I think even like Perfect Strike. Oh no, but it says take the fighter out of action. This doesn't get out of action. Yeah, so I think the only warband that might actually care is Kanan's Reapers because they have created for war. So
Yeah, and I guess things like Branching Fate,
Yep.
that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a situation where the right move is to attack it, but in general, I don't think that'll be the case. So,
Yeah.
um,
I think 90% of the time
yeah,
they're just gonna ignore this fighter. And maybe you can get some supports. Or as you mentioned, I really like that center retention play. Didn't even think about that. That's a really cool idea. Um or the poison delivery system as we are discussing. So pretty cool.
yeah,
I think that,
yeah.
so overall, like, what do you think about the miniatures and the fighters in this warband? Actually, let's not even talk about the miniatures. What about just the fighter cards? Like, what do you think?
Um, I think it's an interesting setup for a warband. They don't have the most health, but if you compare them to some of the other four fighter warbands, like maybe the Purifiers or the Dread Pageant, I would say they're similar stat wise. Um, they're
Yeah.
a little bit more accurate probably than
Mm-hmm.
those two, but and then maybe somewhere in between as far as how defensive they are. And I think they're going to have a very very strong second round if you get enough glory for upgrades in the first round.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. What do you think?
I, so I've seen a lot of people comment on Discord and online that they're just like, oh, they're bad or they're trash or they're poochies or whatever. But like, I don't think so. I think Elethane is like one of the stronger like a stronger fighter in this game. Um, even uninspired. I think Furan is a Shiok, which is quite respectable, as you mentioned. I really like the fact that Tamael can come back and has that range too. I like the fact that
Hmm.
this Warband can move and then charge. I would say maybe Doing Claw is like, I mean, he's not Legane, right? He's better than Legane, so
Yeah,
you know,
I,
much to
I
my
do think
chagrin.
that this warband is the most like Wild Hunt of any warband that
Yes,
we've um,
yeah, for sure, for
of
sure.
any other. Yeah.
Where like your opponent is going to try to take down Elethane because Elethane is so integral to your Warband. Same way, and Scathe is not integral to Wild Hunt, but he just does the most damage and he's the most lethal off the bat. So
Right.
he can move the fastest. So that's kind of the bigger threats there. Um, so yeah, you're absolutely correct in that they are very similar in playstyle and maybe even the way your opponent would try to, break them down. But my immediate feeling is don't sleep on this warband because they looks can be deceiving. But they're going to be a high skill cap warband. I really do believe that just from looking at the fighter cards. I'm talking like Eyes of the Nine, Worm Spat level finesse, where like the average player is going to dismiss them and call them names or not really think about it. But then you're going to see people who really dedicate their time and energy and craft into this warband, and they're going to do really well. Um, and I look forward to seeing that happen. And if I'm fortunate enough, I can help make that happen. So I'm pretty excited to see how they work and how they function. But they're certainly not bad. I mean, for a four fighter warband, they have more wounds than Miari's,
Yeah.
and they're comparable in damage output to Dread Pageant. So I dig it.
Yeah. Yeah. They definitely are. I
And
think that
Wild Hunt,
they do
good.
have relatively low damage. Sorry. Um, so I think that's their main weakness, but maybe they have ways to overcome that.
Yeah, well, let's find out. Let's take a look at their faction cards.
All right.
So, do you want to jump through the objectives?
Yeah. So the first objective here is utter isolation. Duel. Score this in an end phase if there are one or more surviving friendly fighters, and no fighter is adjacent to any other fighter for 2 glory.
So, I love this card.
Yeah.
This is Alone in the Darkness Reborn.
Yeah, pretty much.
and that card was so good it was restricted.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited because this is an auto include for this warband.
Yeah.
Four
It's really
fighters, a lot of fighters, a lot of popular warbands right now are four or less. And yeah, you know, you'll get a Grimwatch, you'll get a Gitz or a Seraphon or a Thorns every once in a while. And you know, if there is some Afar update, then that could always change. But at this moment, it's a great card.
Yeah, and you're gonna pack some pushes and stuff anyway, so
Yeah,
um, yeah, I think this is a great one.
four to four.
It's sort of hard for your opponent to counter this one, so I like it. The next one is Unseen Menace. One glory. Score this in an end phase if two or more friendly Idoneth are within 2 hexes of the same enemy fighter. What do you think?
Yeah, so this is an easier version of Unafraid.
Yeah.
Obviously, you get half the glory for it, but I think it's pretty easy to do, especially given the fact that Tamael can come back. And you know, you do have 3 Idoneth fighters, and 2 of them are low wounds though. So for that reason, I might be a little scared to have them within 2 hexes of the same fighter. But you could manipulate this because Tamael gets a charge 2 hexes away, and then maybe you try to finish that fighter off, or maybe pop this, you know, a pop up with a push or something like that. That could work, but I think it's a very okay card, but it's scoreable.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think you could play it if you wanted to, but I think maybe I would just take Unafraid. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, if you're going for this, you could do both. I mean,
Yeah, you could.
you know.
The next one is Tides of Death. One glory. Score this in an end phase if 3 or more friendly fighters each have 1 or more charge tokens. What do you think
It's
about
pretty
that?
easy to do
Yeah. Yeah.
if they survive.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. Once you lose 2 of them, it's kind of dead. You can bring one of them back, maybe. So I think it's okay. I think I like Unseen Menace a little bit more. But it's not bad.
Like, I'm glad it's there because if
Or
someone
it's
wants
not
to
that
play
bad.
like, yeah, I mean, if someone wants to play like super aggro, they can. And like, this is a
Yeah.
great objective to add to your deck for that. But I absolutely agree in that it's doable,
Yeah.
and that's really all.
The next one is score this Taker of Souls, Surge, 1 glory. Score this immediately after your leader's range 1 attack action that takes an enemy fighter out of action.
Yeah, so more often than not, I generally don't like cards like this. And after a while, you know, I played a lot of Wild Hunt. You kind of get rid of Rundown, which is Scathe, eliminating someone off a charge.
Yeah.
Why I do like this one in this warband in particular is because Elathane is such a good fighter, and you're gonna want to, in theory, use him to kill people so you can bring Tamael back. And
Yeah.
so if that's a natural part of your game plan and the natural part of how this warband functions, then I don't mind taking Taker of Souls. Now, if you do end up taking Taker of Souls, then I don't see why you wouldn't just take Savage Exemplar as well, right? If Elathane's gonna be your like monster
Yeah.
Voltron fighter, but if Elathane goes down, you know, first round, you know, it's goodbye Charlie.
Yeah. I agree. The next one is Surging Tide. Surge. Score this immediately after 1 friendly fighter's second or subsequent move action in the same phase. 1 glory.
It's great. We mentioned earlier, like Longstrider or Burst of Speed would be great for this warband.
And here it is.
Well, here you go. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. They can't really score it very easily in the second round, which I think I like. Like, it kind of balances out a little bit.
Yes.
But yeah, cool. The next one is Speed of the Flood Tide. Surge. Score this immediately after an activation if 3 or more friendly fighters are in enemy territory. What do you think?
So usually I wouldn't like this card, but you know, after you mentioned you can kind of pop the spine fin up in enemy territory.
Yeah.
You know, you could maybe get like a beast trail going, a spine fin, and then, you know, maybe get the last fighter in, and you have the movement shenanigans to do it. So I don't think it's a bad card. I think there's a lot of cards that can kind of align with this, you know, where all your enemy fighters in enemy territory, and they look like they want to be aggressive. So I dig it.
Yeah.
My only concern again is the low wound count, which we've touched on a couple times.
Yeah, I agree. I think that because the fish and the crab can count, though, I think it makes it pretty playable.
For sure.
Yeah,
Playable for sure.
yeah. The next one is Soul Raiders. One glory. Score this in an end phase if two or more enemy fighters are out of action. We've seen these before. They're not, but they're not too bad. But
Yeah. I think the whole concept is scoreable, but inefficient.
yeah, a little bit, just a little bit too meta dependent. There's some metas with that. This would be great, but we're just not there
Yeah,
right now.
that's true.
The next one is Smothered Memories. Surge one glory. Score this immediately after an opponent discards a card from their hand in the action phase without playing it or scoring it. What do you think about
So, I
that?
really like this one. To the End is a really popular card. Crown of the Dead is really popular. Um, so there's a lot of ways in which you can like you draw cards and then discard them.
Yeah,
In the action phase itself, there are some faction cards that do work with this. So,
right.
and I think they're good. So without spoiling them, I think with the combination of the right meta, which I do believe we're in the right meta, and the cards that they have, I like this one a lot because it's essentially just give your opponent a bad choice. Now your opponent can choose not to discard cards, and that could brick your hand, but
Yeah,
it remains it remains to be seen whether it's a proper strategy. So my whole rating depends on whether those cards are going to be taken. And candidly, like if you're in a competitive setting and your opponent knows they can deny you a glory if this becomes popular, then they might do that because it could
yeah,
break your hand, and the larger ramifications of the course of the game could be more than like the buff or choice that they have to made that affects you positively, rather than avoiding it to spend the discard or discard the card. It's my wordy way of saying. I don't know. It depends.
yeah. It's interesting because it's a little bit of a meta call. Like if the Crown and the Unnatural Truce and Frenzied Search are really popular, which they have been before. Um, then this is great because they're also gonna be discarding your cards. But um, I guess we'll have to see the quality of the faction cards that need people to discard. So
Mm-hmm.
and even then, it sounds like it's going to be a choice. So the next one is Merciless Raiders. Surge one glory. Score this immediately after a friendly fighter's attack action made as part of a charge action that takes an enemy fighter in enemy territory out of action.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with this card. Like it's good.
Yeah,
It's reliable. Um, my
basically like a Brata Bay sort of thing.
That's exactly the card I was going to mention. Is like if they're hunters, so you can actually like score multiple cards off similar
Yeah,
actions, right? Like you can take like a gathered momentum, cover ground, winged death, merciless raiders brought to bay, and it's in theory you could score 3 of those cards in one activation, which is
yeah.
great.
And I think that that's sort of what the leader is going to be wanting to be doing in this second round anyway.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think it's a good addition. The next one is Guardians of the Deep. One glory. Score this in an end phase if there are no enemy fighters in your territory.
So I think this one's really tough for a couple reasons. Um, your warband I think wants to be aggressive, like a wave crashing on the beach, if you will, or land.
Yeah.
Um, B, there are a lot of warbands that want to be in your territory.
Yeah.
And this is why I like this warband, because they're going to want to be in your territory too. So was your opponent going to try to kill you or try to score their glory? You
Right.
know? So for me, if this was like 3 glory or 2 glory, I would consider it for sure. 2 glory at least, but
Yeah.
1 glory it's not even I'm not going to think about it.
Speaking of three glory, the next one is Dead or Doomed. Three glory. Score this in the third end phase if each enemy fighter is either out of action or adjacent to one or more friendly fighters. What do you think?
Yeah, so we talk about like annihilation style cards a lot,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I think we can both agree, and I feel confident speaking for the both of us here, is that they're trash.
Yeah.
But in this situation, I like the idea of being able to manipulate via pushes. I feel like that's a strong theme with this warband. Like in theory, like even if you get wiped, the spine fin can pop up and score you this card, right?
Yeah, there's just like one enemy left or something.
Well, it's just like, yeah, exactly, yeah, with one enemy fighter. So am I saying I'm gonna take it? Probably not, but
Yeah.
I think you could really figure it out. Like do an Unafraid, Dead or Doomed, like style deck with Unseen Menace or Tides of Death or whatever.
Yeah, maybe.
And it could maybe have some legs in like a Vanguard event or something. It's not to
Yeah.
be.
Especially
Not
in
to
a
be slept
warband
on.
with, I mean, especially in a meta with like a lot of small warbands.
Yeah.
And if you're playing very aggro, maybe you're likely to have just one fighter left. So it's doable. It just, has a few too many. It's just a little bit too slow and a little bit too specific. But
If this was like 2 glory for any end phase,
yeah,
like I think its
yeah,
stock skyrockets for me, but ultimately it's still one of those cards where I'm like, I think Set the Tempo's better.
yeah, yeah. The last one is Cold-Eyed Killers. Score this in an end phase if 2 or more enemy fighters were taken out of action in the preceding action phase. We just saw this for Canaan's Reapers. I think I like it a little bit more than you do.
I actually like it in this warband.
Yeah.
I don't like it in Canaan's Reapers.
Okay.
Because of the ability to like move charge.
Right.
Tamael can come back in. But as you've mentioned many times, even in the last episode, meta dependent.
Yeah. Yeah. I still think it's a pretty solid card. Even in the 3 and 4 warband meta, I think sometimes you'll be able to get 2. And for 2 glory, I think it's worth trying. But
Yeah.
but that's it. That's it for the objectives.
Yeah. One last thing on that card is I think if like Mollog and Crushes and some stuff gets toned down,
Yeah.
like via afar, then the stock of this card rises for sure. Because then we'll see more of the
Yeah.
larger warbands, right?
That's true. Yep. Yep.
So
Let's see. Did you have a favorite one?
Outer Isolation.
Utter Isolation. Yeah. Yeah. That one's really good.
Didn't even have to think about
it. I like that Surging Tide is back. I like Burst of Speed for a warband that, has to think about using it and can't use it on all 3 rounds. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think some of the cards are a little meh. But then you've got some, like 2 or 3 cards where I'm like, I can definitely rock this. And that's all you really need is like 3 to 4 cards that you want to slot into your deck, and then the rest is universals, right? So,
I mean, I think 4 of the surges are pretty playable. The
yeah,
2 for killing, 1 for being in enemy territory, and then the 1 for the double move. And then I think I would take Utter Isolation and maybe Cold-Eyed Killers. So I mean then you're easily going to be able to fill out the rest with universals. So yeah. I think this is a pretty solid.
For me, all the ones that I really like off the bat are all on the left row or left column. They're all like literally right on top of one another. Other Isolation, Surging Tide, and Merciless Raiders. Like those are my 3, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
And
those are probably the 3 best ones.
And then Taker of Souls, I think, is a good.
Yeah,
it's a good ponder. I don't know if you ultimately end up taking it, but I'll definitely think about it.
Yeah, you may not need that many kill surges, so.
Yeah, well, you live and die with the dice at that point.
Right.
Okay. So you mentioned your favorites, yeah. So what do you think about that objective set?
I think it's pretty good. I think it's interesting that I don't think any of them mention holding objectives at all. So I think and they're basically all aggressive in some way. So it seems pretty clear this is supposed to be an aggro warband. And I think there are some pretty decent cards here to do that with.
Yeah, I like them. I think this is. I think as we mentioned, there's like 3 to 5 that are playable in this meta, and then like depending on your preferences, you can easily go for 3 or 4 cards that you really like. But I'm not disappointed with the selection. Right, I think it's right about where I expected it to be, but I am pleasantly surprised with a couple cards.
Yeah, I think if you could consider like 6 of a warband's cards, then like that's fine. So
yeah,
facts. Yeah.
Okay, well let's jump into the gambits. So we'll start with the first one. per Warcom's page, so it's I think in reverse alphabetical order. It's Terror Knight Venom.
Yeah.
Choose one enemy, so it's a poison, first
Mm-hmm.
faction poison card. Choose one enemy fighter adjacent to one or more friendly fighters. You can re-roll one attack dice in attack rolls for attack actions made by friendly fighters that target the chosen fighter. This effect persists until the end of the round or until that fighter is out of action.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I like this one. I think it's just a question of how early in the round can you actually apply it. Um, I think if you, uh, if you already have the fish down or you already have somebody stuck in the second round, this becomes pretty nice. Um, if you have to get someone into position in the first round, I think maybe you only get 2 uses out of it. That may still be worth it for 2 rerolls. But I don't know. It's a little hard to say. I don't think it's a bad card, um, but it's probably not better than like Determined Effort or something because it's a little bit more situational. But I don't know. What do you think?
I think the only reason you would take this accuracy card is if you want something to do with poison.
Yeah, and Master of Poisoners isn't probably the worth going for. So
Yeah, so unless there's some upgrades that have to do with poison, which I don't believe there are, I
I
think
don't think so.
it's solid again, solid for Vanguard, right?
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean maybe Determined Effort is just better. I don't know.
yeah. It's really not bad. Um, you just have to get somebody adjacent. So I may just have to try it out and see, or just play the warband a few times and then see if I think that it would be useful. Because part of the problem is that the fish comes down at the end of the enemy's power step, and that means the power step is over. So you can't like put the fish down and then play this and then attack a few more
Yeah.
times. So um, I don't know. Yeah, let's go to the next one.
Yeah. Speaking of fish
Yeah.
and poisons, we've got Spinefin Toxin. So
Mm-hmm.
we mentioned, poison delivery system. I guess it's built into the warband. Because it can do poisons. Choose one enemy fighter adjacent to a friendly Spinefin. Deal 1 damage to that fighter. In addition, the chosen fighter cannot hold objectives, cannot be on guard, and cannot make range 3 plus attack actions. This effect persists until the end of the round or until that fighter is out of action.
Yeah, so I think this one is quite a bit better. Um, and I think it's really good. I think the damage is good. I think the cannot hold objectives is really good. The guard can be good. The range 3 could be good. So I like this one a lot. I think I would take this one.
Yeah, I'm in the same mind as that if you plan on playing with the Spinefin Toxin at all and making it part of
Yeah.
your core game plan, which I think you should try at least a couple times. This is a really good card because this can finish a fighter off. This can ruin someone's objective strategy. It could make someone easier to take down. It can
Yeah.
ruin Thunderic Profiteers. I mean, sky's the limit here. So I like it a lot. Let's jump to the next one, Shifting Currents. Pick one. Remove all friendly shoal counters or shoal tokens from the battlefield and then place one shoal token in an empty hex. Or pick one objective token in an empty hex and move that objective token into an adjacent hex. You cannot move it into a lethal hex or a hex that contains a feature token.
Yeah. This one is interesting. I don't think the shoal effect is bad. I'm not sure if it's worth a Gambit card. I think if you're playing this warband with some objective flex, with maybe like Hidden Purpose, Swift Capture, maybe you consider taking this. But I'm just not sure if because then you can use it for the shoal or you can use it for an objective, in a pinch. I'm just not sure if it packs enough value though. But it's interesting.
I think the idea with this card, which I agree, I think I'm a little bit mixed emotions on it, is the idea of which you either are looking to score hold objective surges by moving
Mm-hmm.
them, or you're trying to get that Spinefin online earlier because you like Spinefin Toxin and maybe Leadbone Dust, like you mentioned earlier, or some of the other cards that could be played via a fighter that is coincidentally very near an opponent. Because you can play this in your
Right.
opponent's power phase, place a show counter, and then when their power phase ends, Spinefin is online, and then it's your activation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I
Cool.
think maybe we just have to try the fish more and see how it ends up working, and see if we
Yeah,
want those extra shulk placement
for sure,
opportunities.
for sure. Which I,
Yeah.
I think there's some game, but you know, I think you could also easily play this warband without the Spinefin. But I think you should, if it's free,
Yeah.
you might as well pop it on there and at least get supports. Anyways, Phantasmal Forms is the next card. In the next activation, friendly fighters have a defense characteristic of 3 dodge.
Yeah, I think this is pretty good.
This is
Yeah, I
yeah,
like it.
I mean this is really good. You can pop this right before the start of the second round. And then your fighters are online, maybe someone charges you anyways. They can't get through 3 dodge, you get free attacks inspired. Cool card.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alrighty. Next one, Fury of the Storm. Play this only in the third round. Each surviving friendly fighter is inspired, unless another player discards 2 power cards, in which case nothing happens. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, this one's interesting. Hmm. I I guess I think that because you have to wait till the third round, and then if the opponent really wants to, they can stop it. It makes me not like it that much. Um, what do you think?
I don't know if this is actually a choice your opponent will ever make.
Well, and like when you do ask them to make the choice, there's going to be probably a right choice for them to make, like a pretty clear best option.
Well, I think that choice will always be okay, you're inspired.
Hmm.
Because you're not really gaining much.
Yeah.
And in fact, it actually makes your warband less mobile. Which might not matter because in the third round, maybe you want to just get like 3 or 4 charges off as much as you can. But I really don't think your opponent's going to discard 2 power cards. Like, of the 20 cards they purposely put into their deck to fulfill their objectives,
Yeah.
it's a big ask.
So I think that it can be, but it's pretty powerful that the opponent gets to choose which cards they're getting rid of. It's kind of like with, um, Frenzied Search. Yes, you have to give a card away, but you get to pick the worst card for you to give away. So I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't want the leader to be inspired if I was playing against this warband. The Cleave
I
and
think
Ensnare is pretty annoying, but
I think for me, it's like if I know that you're trying to score glory off me making a decision,
yeah.
are my 2 power cards worth denying you 1 glory? And I think if anyone ever plays a choose card with this warband, you're gonna think, wait, do they have that search?
Yeah, maybe.
You know?
Yeah, that's true.
And maybe the glory denial isn't worth it. Maybe it's like, all right, take your glory. You know?
Yeah.
But like
Well,
giving an opponent a glory and giving up 2 power cards, I don't know.
so if we assume that you're correct and that you usually will want to just let them inspire, um, you don't think that's worth holding it till the third round, do you?
Well, that's the thing is like this card can only be played in the third round. If you draw this early, you'll discard it.
Okay. But then
You
then you only have 4 power cards that round.
Well, I'm saying is like you throw it at the end of the. So what I'm saying is like if you so if you're the Ideneth player
Yeah.
and you draw this card before the third round, let's say the first round, are you gonna hold it till the third round, or are you just gonna toss it in the end phase?
I mean, I'm probably gonna toss it. Yeah.
Yeah. So A, inefficient, right? B, I think giving up 2 power cards is worth denying you a glory and possibly bricking your hand, or forcing you to use an activation to cycle a card. Which is
Yeah.
why I would take that choice because I would assume that you might have that card.
Hmm. Okay. I think there'd be a lot of games when I would rather
Sorry,
just
not
lose the
discard,
power
but
cards.
inspire. Sorry.
But yeah, but it's interesting that we disagree. So I guess we'll just have to see. But unfortunately, I think the third round part is what's going to hold it back.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I think if we can get past the minutia of the third round, like,
yeah,
and I want to make it clear, I think I was misspeaking, but my whole mind is like, I don't care if you inspire, because I'll deny you a glory,
sure.
and you'll probably be dead anyways by the third round, or I'll be dead.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the two.
And like we said earlier, like they will be pretty upgraded by then probably. So the
Yeah,
inspire may not matter, but it probably depends on like how many things are alive. If the crab is still alive, then he's kind of annoying when he's inspired, and um, so yeah, I don't know.
well, I
Interesting.
also just feel like you kind of don't want to be inspired in the third round.
Maybe.
I mean, I think we can talk about this for a minute, but
Yeah.
let's go to Forgotten Nightmares, which is the next card. I love this flavor text. Why are you trying to hit a fish? I will say, if you look at these faction cards, they actually feature enemy fighters more than they feature themselves,
Hmm.
which I think is kind of funny. Um, Forgotten Nightmares. When an enemy fighter makes an attack action, pick one eligible fighter as the target of that action, unless during the declare action step that enemy fighter's player discards one power card. This effect persists until the end of the round. So this is
Yeah.
one of those cards that can be, I think, a little bit more of a win-win if you have the Spinefish online, right? Just as the image depicts.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially against ranged enemies. Um, it gets pretty annoying against them, I think. Or it gets pretty annoying for them.
Yeah.
The I don't know. The weakness of it, I guess, is if they are able to position in such a way where they don't have another target, or they have two like equally valuable targets. Um, Definitely the fish is the one that you want to be able to send them to.
Yeah.
Um,
I also think if like Mollog is trying to YOLO your Elethane
yeah,
and Tamael is there, you let Tamael die. You go kill a
yeah,
squig with Elethane and Tamael's back online.
that's true. And when the Morbid is inspired, they have two fighters at two blocks, so um, even the crab can be used for that. So
Mr. Krabs.
yeah, it does make them pretty good against range fighters. So
Yeah. I like the fact that this offers choice. And I like the fact that if you set it up correctly, you're at the very least burning of an opponent's power card. Right.
yeah,
Next
yeah.
one is Crushing Pressure. Um, looks like Glissette's having a real bad headache. Choose one enemy fighter. That fighter's player picks one. In the next activation, the chosen fighter has -2 move to a minimum of 0, and a -2 dice from their attack actions to a minimum of 0, or that player discards one power card. What do you think?
Yeah, so this is interesting. This one and the one before it, I feel like kind of just brings up the question of is it worth taking a card in your deck that takes up one card slot of a gambit and then it does something or the opponent can just trade in one of their cards, but it doesn't have to be a gambit. It can just be any of their cards. So like, basically the situation on the card has to be worth playing and then the opponent has to have a card that they don't want, um, or it has to not have a card that they don't want in order for it to be worth you playing. So when I'm doing like the mental math to see if I think these are worth taking, um, I'm not sure if I think they are.
So I think that's going to be the constant dilemma that you have to ask yourself. But I also
Yeah,
think that if you take that surge, it's worth it.
yeah,
Which
that's true.
we've talked about that surge being something that maybe we don't want, right?
Yeah, I guess my problem with it is I think there are just better surges that don't rely on a combo like that.
Yeah. This is also the next activation. If this was a persisting gambit for the round, then I
Yeah,
think this could like really hamper a Mollog or a Hrothgorn or a Morgok or a Skaith or even an opposing Elethane, right? Um,
yeah,
but I think this is ultimately, I just don't know. I think Forgotten Nightmares is the best one. Um, and I think you just take that card for the sake of the fact that you can potentially save a fighter. But I don't know if Crushing Pressure is worth it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that Forgotten Nightmares theoretically, well, see, the problem with either one is that if you play it at the perfect time, the opponent just says, "Well, here's an upgrade that I didn't want," or like, "Here's my worst
Or you
gambit."
can play it when they have no power cards.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yep, it is pretty good in that situation.
But it's also
Um,
like extremely unlikely that you can line it up like that. The stars have to
yeah,
align.
that's the problem. Is
So
they have to have no cards, and it has to be the perfect time to play this fairly situational card.
yeah,
So,
lots of stuff going on.
yeah.
Cloud of Midnight is the next card. Choose one friendly fighter until the end of the next activation. That fighter cannot be the target of attack actions, cannot be chosen or damaged by gambits, and cannot be pushed. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that is pretty good. Cannot be the target of attack actions. Yeah, I like that.
That's pretty solid to me. I mean,
That fighter's invincible.
for an activation, yeah, like
Yeah.
play it in your power step and have your opponent like I don't know. You could do some cool things. I mean, if anything, it just saves your fighter so that you can take advantage of the Inspire in the second round, or
Yeah.
maybe your opponent has last activation. And you're like Cloud of Midnight, sorry.
Yeah, they
Or
play a Haymaker type card or
yeah,
something like that, and you're just like, okay. I guess you have to choose the fighter. So,
I
like,
just
they
take
can
this on
attack somebody
Elethane. I think
else.
90% of the time, right? Elethane's probably my Voltron daddy, so
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
save Elethane. But I mean, the card art has Tamael, which might be worth it.
Maybe.
I like it. Chill Mist is the next card. In the next activation, fighters have -1 move to a minimum of 0 and cannot make range 3 attack actions. They really got a thing for Profiteers and Farstriders here.
Yeah.
I love the card art, though. I love how there's like a fish in the background, too, like a swordfish just lurking.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about this card?
I think the range 3 is just too situational to really count on, and then I don't think the -1 move is really worth a card. Um, so I'm not a big fan, but
It's also the next
it's
activation.
interesting.
So,
Yeah,
if these were all persisting ploys, like different cons, like different conversation.
that's true. Yeah, -1 move for the whole round would be worth thinking about, I guess. But with Cloud of Midnight and Phantasmal Forms, um, like you don't need any other defensive ploys.
Yeah.
So, like those are really really good, and they're for the next activation. So we're comparing these other ones to that. So like Crushing Pressure and Chill Mist. So
All right. Well, the last card is Brain Barnacles. I feel like Gorath is just having a bad time in a lot of these photos.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, he is. He's hitting a fish and then getting brain
getting brain
barnacles.
barnacled.
Yeah.
Choose one enemy fighter within 3 hexes of one or more friendly Ideneth. Keep in mind there's only 3 of those. The chosen fighter has -1 move to a minimum of 0. In addition, if the chosen fighter is within 1 hex of one or more friendly Ideneth when this card is played, the fighter's attack actions have the Fury characteristic. This effect persists until the end of the round or until that fighter is out of action.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Um, if I remember correctly, there are better cards that'll make somebody have a Fury characteristic. And if somebody's 3 hexes away, I don't think I care if they have -1 move or not. So, I just don't find this being that useful.
Yeah, I don't know if I can add anything to that, honestly. You're absolutely correct. So, well, why don't we just jump to your favorite? Which is your favorite card of the bunch?
I think my favorite is the Spinefin Toxin.
Yeah, that's a cool one.
The bitch will bite you.
I think I like Cloud of Midnight or Phantasmal Forms. I think
Yeah.
like they can both make one of your fighters pretty hard to take down. So
Yeah.
it's a safe temporary reprieve before you continue to do what you want to do or survive into the next round, potentially Inspire.
Yeah, I like those defensive cards that just kind of stall the game out for an activation. Um,
Yeah.
And the ones we've seen before are like, the next activation you can only take 1 damage, and this can be like, maybe sometimes a little bit oppressive. Um, but Cloud of Midnight makes you pick a fighter, and then Phantasmal Forms can still miss or can still fail to block. So they're cool.
Yeah. What do you think of the cards as a whole? The gambits.
Yeah. They're interesting. They have a lot of like I don't know if control is really the right word, but they have a fair amount of the ability to mess with the opponent. Um, some really good defensive abilities, which is but and I would say not a lot of offensive abilities. There's the one poison. I guess the two poisons are kind of offensive. The rest is kind of like debuff and self buff, which is an interesting mix of cards for what it seems like it's an aggressive warband from their objectives.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of these cards offer like strong choices for you when building a deck, and
Yeah,
every card you take from this pile of cards, the selection is meaningful. There's purpose behind it. I don't know if I think you could build a deck for these guys without any in faction cards for the Gambit pool, right? Um,
you mean
but I
without
think
any universals or
no,
without
without
using?
any faction cards.
Uh,
Yeah, because
yeah,
like
I'm
I don't
sure
know
you
if they're
could.
all I don't know if they're all necessary, right? But I think there's some again deliberate choices you can make if you have a certain game plan, whether
Yeah,
it's building into shoal counters in the spinefish or poison, or building into potentially your opponent discarding a card to potentially making your fighters a bit more survivable for one activation, right? So they all offer choice. I don't know if there's any clear cut answer. Like there's no like card in here where I'm like, oh my god, this is insane. It's more of like in this situation, I think this would be a nice card,
yeah, yeah. I
right?
think I agree. I think that we'll see Cloud of Midnight and Phantasmal Forms. Other than that, I mean, I guess Spinefin Toxin. I would probably take.
Yeah,
I would probably try those three, and it's possible I'd end up cutting one of them.
yeah. I mean, like, because the thing is like if you want to play into the spine fin, you take spine fin toxin, you take shifting currents, and you take forgotten nightmares.
Yeah,
And then you're just like, well, that's 3 cards, maybe 4, if you want to take another poison, and that's half your gambits on a fighter that doesn't really do much, but can
that's true.
potentially do a lot. So things to consider.
Yeah,
But let's jump on to the upgrades. Do
yeah,
you want to start these off?
yeah. So the first one is Vol or Voltane Eel. It's a weapon upgrade. Range 3, 3 Fury, 1 damage. On a critical hit, give the target 1 or more move tokens, and it is restricted to Elethane. Elethane? Yeah,
Elethane, that's his name.
Elethane.
Elethane. One
So
damage.
slightly better net, I guess. The net that he already has. I just don't think it's. I mean, the on crit thing is okay, but there's just better options if this is what you're trying to do.
Correct. Yeah, I think his attack action profile makes this almost redundant. Um,
Yeah, we just got the universal ranged version of this. That's like a one time. That if it hits, it gives
Soul
a
Tooth
move.
net.
Uh, the other one, but okay, no, yeah, that is what it is. Yeah,
Oh, you're talking about the move one, the
yeah,
three
the
range
move
one.
one. Yeah, the
Yeah,
range
yeah,
three.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, we're passing on this one.
Yeah, the next one is Unstoppable Fury. You can reroll 1 attack dice in this fighter's attack rolls for attack actions made as part of a charge action. Um, no restriction there at all, so pretty good.
Solid card. I think
Yep.
any warband that has this card in part of their faction kit, which we've seen before, usually takes it.
Yeah.
So, um, I like it. I dig it, and you're gonna want to charge a lot with these guys. Why not?
Yeah. Next one is Soul Bond. When this fighter makes an attack action, if there is a friendly Elthan within 3 hexes, that fighter is considered to be supporting this fighter, restricted to Tamael.
So I like this card for a couple of reasons. A, the supports are really nice. You can get maybe double supports with um, uh, the spinefish. I'm not really sure if how the surges are worded, whether they actually require 2 fighters or they just state supporting. But maybe you can take cards that reward you for making attacks with supporting fighters. They don't physically state that there must be 2 fighters there. I also believe that there is an objective that we went over earlier called Unseen Menace, which kind of like helps you set up to score that while, benefiting from Tamael's range 3 supports. So I don't see it as a bad card. I just think that if you heavily invest into Tamael, you probably take it. Otherwise, probably not. And even then, if Elethane goes down early, it's kind of a waste.
Yeah, I think that's probably the weakness of it. I don't hate taking upgrades for Tamiel because he can theoretically come back. But I'm not really sure if this one's worth it. The next one is Sanguine Pearl. Reduce the damage dealt to this fighter by adjacent enemy fighters' attack actions by 1 to a minimum of 1. Restricted to Idoneth.
Great card. Pop this on your leader.
Yeah.
He's not. He's gonna at least take another, investment card via a card from your opponent or another activation to go down. I also love anything that looks like Blood Angel weaponry. So extremely biased here, but I think it's a good card for your leader. And worst case scenario, it's not bad on Tamael if Alethane's dead, because then once Tamael goes down, he can't come back. Yeah. And then if Uran if Uran is alive, then she can be pretty tanky too, if you invest in her.
Yeah, I think the one problem with this card is that it's only range 1. We have seen versions that are better, but there's enough ranged 1 attacks in the game, even if a leader or something or in another warband isn't. I think this will still work in most of the time.
I feel like a lot of the Dire Chasm warbands are range 1. They're like melee warbands, and and it doesn't necessarily just say range 1. It just says adjacent. So like.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So like a fighter could be hitting you with a range 3 or range 2 attack adjacent to you. So.
Yeah, you could use a counter charge or something too to sneak around.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. The next one is Martial Excellence. If this fighter has 1 or more charge tokens, this fighter is on guard, restricted to Jurian.
Yeah, so if she gets on, so like she's 2 dodge and 2 block either way. Yeah. I feel like she's always going to have a charge token because you're gonna move or charge. Second activation or second round, you're gonna charge. Third activation, she's either dead or you're charging.
Right.
So this isn't a bad card. I don't know if I want to invest much into her though. I feel like my 2 investment options, my priority is probably Tamael and Elethane.
Yeah, I kind of wish she just had this ability like built in.
That would have been really cool instead of that flavor text on her inspired side.
Yeah,
that would have been funny.
Yeah. So I don't think it's quite worth the card, but it's cool. It's a cool ability. Next one is Lure Light, restricted to Elthane. When an enemy fighter is taken out of action while adjacent to this fighter, that fighter's player picks 1. You gain 1 glory point, or that player discards 1 power card. I actually like this one quite a bit.
Yeah. So this is where that card and that whole discard mechanic comes into play. So like if you can get Lure Light out and then you maybe take Forgotten, what's that one called? Forgotten Memories? Forgotten Nightmare?
Yeah, Forgotten Nightmares.
Then I think you could probably get it down, because at that point then it's like your opponent will give you the glory.
I don't think they give you the glory. I think they discard a card.
No. If you have that objective.
Yeah, but I think you just probably score the objective if you happen to have it.
Exactly. So either way, you're getting a glory. Is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
Right, but like, but then if not, then like they're in theory throwing away resources, which is, I guess, the Underworld's way of saying we're claiming your souls.
Yeah.
So
I guess
I like
cards are the souls.
even if you don't take that objective, I think you take this card.
Yeah, because I think just an upgrade and having it be an effect is, maybe you get to use it twice in the game. That has more value than a gambit would.
Yeah. And a quick shout out real quickly is the term poison delivery system. It was given to me by Michael Carlin. I was talking to him about it earlier, and he coined that phrase. So I just wanted to give him credit.
Yeah, sure.
If that matters. Which It's his idea. It was good.
The next one is Hunter of Souls. +1 damage to this fighter's attack actions that target a fighter with one or more wound counters. It is restricted to Idoneth.
I think we talk about one-shot meta a lot, but we haven't been in one in a while. Because they're big boys out there.
Yeah.
So this could be a neat way to take down 4 wound and higher miniatures, especially because all of them just do 2 damage.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're gonna want to take at least 3 sources of damage with this warband. And I don't know if you want to reduce the defense dice on them.
Yeah, I think you take
with the Savage Strength.
Yeah, I think this is very easily like distract into a lethal boom, or lethal ward boom. Is lethal ward in the game?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Came out in the essential spec.
Essential. Yeah. I
Yeah,
remember it's Kacharg being caught on fire.
Yeah. So I think you'll take Glory Seeker and Great Strength, but then this might be your third one if you don't take like Sting of the Urgrav or something like that. It's worth considering, I think.
Well, I think the one with Glissette on it, the one that gives you a hunger counter.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah.
Because like when you die, don't you remove all counters?
There's so many of them.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah. The next one is Aether Sea Predator. Reaction: during an enemy fighter's move action, after that fighter enters a hex adjacent to this fighter for the first time in that action, roll 1 attack dice. On a roll of smash, that fighter's move action ends. Restricted to Doonclaw. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm just gonna reread this again. During enemy fighter's move action, after the fighter enters a hex adjacent to this fighter for the first time. Yeah. So like a third of the time you can just deny a charge, or like if they happen to move adjacent to you, right?
Yeah, they get to attack the crab, I guess, because they're in range. But basically, it makes the crab like a blocker, sort of, or has the chance to block. I don't think we've ever seen anything like that before. That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. But I think it's also like, I feel like we play in an environment where it's like, oh, are you sure you want to move in this hex next to Doonclaw?
Yeah.
And because like I have this upgrade, and they're gonna be like, oh, okay, I'll just go around. And you're gonna be like, oh yeah, that's fine, bro. Because like we do that all the time. Like, oh, I'm gonna charge from here, and they're like, and then you're like, oh, wait a second, I'm just gonna move here because you're trapped. And then you're like, yeah, that's fine. I mean,
Yeah, I do think that you could probably put him in positions where it makes it hard to avoid him.
Sure.
But I think just the fact that it's restricted to him and it only works a third of the time, probably means you don't play it. But I like the design space a lot.
For sure, I think the design space is really cool. I just feel like
it's sort of like maybe he should have had this ability built in. Oh, and it also does give his crushing claw attack and snare. I missed that.
Might be worth for the ensnare alone. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, we've all seen Legane win games. Maybe Doonclaw can be your finisher in some situations.
Yeah, maybe. The next one is Born from Agony. +1 wounds, and then lethal hexes cannot deal damage to this fighter. Restricted to Idoneth.
I really like it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, even though it's only for the Idoneth, +1 wounds is great, and the lethal hex thing is just icing on the cake.
Yeah. Super, super good card. I love how he's just like doing a pimp walk across some spikes with a shark in the background. That's a great album cover, honestly.
Yeah. The last one is Armor of the Scythia.
I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't know if it's Kythai or Scythai.
Yeah.
But it means awakened. It's the original race of elves created by Teclis, which happen to be the Idoneth. But like firstborn.
Cool.
Which the only one that's still alive is like, I think his name is Volturnus. He's the High King of the Deep. He's like the named character on the eel.
Mm-hmm.
He's a boss.
Okay. The effect is restricted to Idoneth, and it's -1 dice from adjacent fighters' attack actions that target this fighter to a minimum of 1. Pretty good, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, this specifically states adjacent, not range one.
Right.
So like in theory, you could like, I think it's kind of cool. You can Sanguine Pearl, Armor of Scythai, and Born from Agony, and you have like a 5 wound fighter who can't take damage from lethal hexes and can potentially, for some matchups, like take one less damage and be harder to hit. It's really cool to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
I can almost see a build where like Tamael becomes really annoying, so you have to kill him, and then he just keeps coming back.
Maybe.
You know, but you
Yeah.
probably stick it on Elethane.
I think one of the nice things about this warband is that they are all pretty accurate, other than the crab. So I think like, part of the problem is they're all kind of just missiles because they're range one for the most part, or they have the range three javelin, so they're going to be charging.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think you just soup them up and then you try to get a kill over and over again.
I think, yeah. Again, like, there's, so I think there's just so many options.
Yeah.
All right, there's no clear cut answer, which
But
I
do you have a
love.
favorite?
For the upgrades.
Yeah.
Dude, it's probably gonna be like Born from Pain. I think is what it's called. Born
Yeah.
from Agony. Yeah, easy.
Yeah, that one's good.
It's probably like, but Lorelight's pretty cool from a design perspective.
Yeah, I like that one. Um, I think Sanguine Pearl and Unstoppable Fury are pretty solid too.
Yeah.
Um, I think there's a lot of good cards here. Unfortunately, the named ones don't all make the, or they're
Okay.
not all up to snuff. But unfortunately, that's the case most of the time.
Yeah, I mean like Unstoppable Fury, Soul Bond, Sanguine Pearl,
Yeah.
Lurelight, Hunter of Souls, Born from Agony, and Armor of Sithai. It's like what, 6 cards, 7 cards that are all worth considering.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
It might be a quick consideration in regards to some of them, but at least you're not dismissing them off the bat, which I think is important.
Yeah, and again, a lot of these are pretty defensive, which is pretty interesting to me. Um, for what seems to be an aggressive warband. So it seems like they may be aggressive, but they're also going to try to slow you down and kind of mess your aggression up in turn. So um, I wonder if that means they're going to be pretty difficult to kill.
Yeah, I mean they might be. I feel like if you can get glory early
Yeah.
and you start stacking on some of these defensive upgrades, you can at least make one of them pretty difficult to um, survive. Or sorry, make it difficult to be taken down and instead survive. So
Yeah.
I like the options. I like again what I was saying earlier is that this warband really doesn't have any clear cut choices. But I feel like if you can figure it out for you, what works best for you in the meta, these guys can be really good. And we're not just saying that. At least I'm not just saying that because we get free stuff. Like we're allowed to be critical. There's nothing in our contract. We don't even have a contract. It's nothing in our communication with Games Workshop where we can't say that we can be critical about things. If you look at any other 40K or AOS or like other early review or early access reviewer, like they can be quite critical and they can say like, oh, this rule sucks. And while we may not say that because we try to just find every use for a card in this situation, like I truly, and Jonathan might think differently. I don't think these guys suck. I don't think they're trash. I don't think they're bad. I think they're hard to play and they're not obvious. And if that's your definition for something that's trash, then that's your problem. But like Eyes of the Nine are not they're a hard warband to play. They're very difficult. I don't think they're trash. But then if you talk about Blade Coven, like I think they're trash. But then like I've seen some people do some really cool things with Blade Coven. Like conversely, like I think Chosen Axes are really bad. But like some people love them and I'm not gonna fault them for it. But in this situation, I think these guys have better stats than Eyes of the Nine. Jonathan mentioned they're quite comparable to the Wild Hunt. And I think they're going to be as hard to play as Eyes of the Nine, but if you can figure it out, you're going to have a great time, and your opponents are going to be like, damn, these guys are a lot better than I thought it was. And that's the best feeling. Like one of our patrons, Eric, He only plays Eyes of the Nine. It's been like 2 years. He doesn't stop playing Eyes of the Nine.
Yeah.
But like I've seen him like take down meta stuff because he just knows what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
And he understands his matchup. So I think if you can do that with this warband over time, you're going to be in a good spot for sure.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think I see them as being that much. I think that they're that difficult to do well with. I don't know. It's a little bit difficult to really gauge anything right now. If I think about the current meta, and we're saying like, basically the whatever the most disgusting crush attack is, like nothing is really that good at that against that. Maybe unless you've completely tailored to beat that. But like if you put that aside and it's everything else, I think most of this stuff is reasonably competitive against most of the rest of it. I think we just have a few problem builds that are kind of head and shoulders above everything else. But
Yeah.
there's also been such an influx of cards lately that I'm not even really sure. Like I don't think I have the firmest grasp on the way the meta is going to shake out. So we'll see. I think these guys can have a incredible second turn though. If they have a few glory, and then you put on some damage, like the leader is going to kill somebody. So I think that's pretty good. How do you think you would play these guys? Would it be aggro? What would you how would you do that?
Yeah, it's funny. I mentioned that it's not like there's no real obvious way to play them, but I think
Yeah.
out of that concept, like the most obvious way that I would think to play them, ironically, is to like play very similar strategy to where I'm kind of to Wild Hunt,
Yeah.
where I kind of want to maybe score like a hidden purpose or a swift capture, or conversely maybe just make 4 charges turn one because I've done that too, and you can do
Yeah.
that in this warband, or you can play a bit more cautious and set up for an amazing round two, as you've alluded to, which I
Yeah.
think this warband will win the game in round two or lose it right before,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I think they like the speed package.
Yeah.
I think maybe you take one or two kill surges, and then I think you can double up on their show of force version, and then just go aggro. I think that works. Um, I don't know if you take inspired attack. Um, I'm not sure about that because you only get it 1 round, but
Yeah.
man, it's really good in that second round.
Well, an interesting thing to think about is right. Is like maybe you don't need inspired attack because you have
Yeah.
Elthane hits on 3 dice, Furin hits on 3 dice, Tamael
Yeah.
two, and Doing Claw goes to 3 and inspired. Like it's a good warband for Fighter's Ferocity.
Yeah, that's true.
Like you
You
can
really just need
find.
damage.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like you can find damage in places like you have you mentioned Great Strength, you mentioned
Yeah.
Glory Seeker. You could. I agree. You don't want to take Savage Strength, so you take the one where you get the Hunger. What's it called?
Um, I forget.
Yeah, I'll find it. And then you take maybe Fighter's Ferocity or you take Snare. You
Yeah.
can take like you can take a Lethal Ward. And then if you maybe take enough ping damage or poison, perhaps via the Spine Fin, then you can open up that faction upgrade, which is what's it called? Hunter of Souls. And then you've got all the damage you need because your guys are already accurate.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's basically what you need to try to do is get a little bit of glory and then soup up the damage and then go for the kill in round two. And I don't know, like I almost want to take something like Vision of Glory to like get a double charge in that with the leader.
In round two, yeah. Or even in
Yeah.
any other round, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. They seem fun to me. I mean, I just need to try them, and I'm sure there's a build there. So I think aggro is the way to go. I could see taking hidden purpose, and swift capture, but that's probably about it. They're not actually great at objectives because there's only 3 of them that can hold it. So
Yeah.
um, maybe I actually Hidden Purpose would be the only one I would probably take right off the
But
bat.
that doesn't even like fit the fluff behind them, the lore, right? Like
Yeah.
these guys are trying to get in, steal your souls, and get out.
Yeah.
And I think it's a disservice to make them hold objectives longer than maybe on the way up to you or on the way back out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Feral Symbiote is the name of the card, by the way.
yeah, that's what it is. Okay. Yeah, I think that one's pretty good too.
Do you think you want to take like weapons with these guys? Like Soul Tooth Dagger, Amberbone Sword. Because I feel like with Skaven you do that a lot, right? Because
Yeah,
keep coming back. But Tamiel has a good attack action, so I don't know.
I think that you don't right now, at least, because what they really need is damage more than accuracy, and I don't think you can afford to take both um, weapons and then the damage to boost the weapon damage above two. Um,
That's true.
yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. The and I think you actually want the damage to be able to go on the crab if you need it to. So,
Yeah, that's
'cause
true.
once he inspires, I think you'll get one good charge out of the crab. So, and then the other thing that I don't know if I've really been able to quantify yet because I haven't messed around with him is how easy is it to get supports with the fish? Because if it is pretty easy, and I think it might be, because it's like if an enemy charges in, you're going to be able to put a fish next to him, and there's nothing they can do about it, because you're just going to put the shoal down, and then you're going to put the fish down the next round.
Yeah.
So that they're just going to get, they're going to get fished. So, um, so I think you're going to pretty reliably be able to get the supports down, and then that's just going to make your guys more accurate. So, I think you
Yeah, I
really
was just
want
looking at
damage.
Strength of the Swarm, which is like +1 dice if you have a supporting a fighter,
Mm,
+1 damage if you have two. You know, I
mm.
don't know if you'll ever get the two, but maybe it's something you could work towards. We keep forgetting to mention
Yeah.
Sting of the Urger, by the way. You know what's really funny? Cursed Blade.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a way to guarantee Tamael dies in a way. You have to just activate him first, but like that's 3 damage off the bat.
That's true.
You
Yeah.
know, it's
We'll
silly.
talk about it in the next episode, but there's a pretty interesting upgrade that does some damage to you as well.
Yeah. I purposely didn't bring that one up.
Oh.
Um, but yeah, there's this set has some good universals.
Yeah.
As always seems to be the case with divisive warbands, like Earthquake and Ready for Action and Chosen Axes.
Yeah,
You know,
that's true.
no one plays Chosen Axes, but everyone uses those cards, or at least did at the time. So
I
you
wonder
know,
if they do that on purpose.
now you're onto something. But yes, I think that concludes our faction review for Elathane's Soul Raid. I think mixed reactions online for sure, but I think Jonathan and I are being positive about it. I think we see the potential,
Yeah.
and we could be wrong. We've been wrong before.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we thought the Canaan's Reapers were not as good as everybody seemed to think. And I think these guys are a little bit better than everybody seems to think. So,
Yes,
we
that's
could
fair.
be wrong.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I've seen some like I've played a couple games with Canaan's Reapers and with and against them, and they've done really well.
Yeah.
But like they're not like this warband's broken. Like I can't tell you how many Facebook comments I saw where like it was like broken warband. And I was like,
Yeah.
dude, do you even play this game? And and then like in this situation it's like crap warband. You know, bad
Yeah.
warband, but it's not. And I can't
Well-
wait to prove people wrong.
And the interesting thing is that every time a warband comes out, people are like, oh, these guys are really bad. Or almost every time, I would say, because if we do have like the Ravager situation. But a lot of the time when this happens, it ends up being some people's favorite warband, and then they end up doing some cool stuff with it. So, and I think we always have to remember we have like 35 warbands in the game right now. You can play something else if you want to.
Yeah, for
So,
real. And you know what? And I listened to his podcast the other day. Someone gave him a shout out. Battle for Salvation, they're back, kind of.
Yeah.
And they had a new episode. Just a good listen. You know, Matt, he plays Ravagers a lot. He's from Into the Glory Hole.
Oh, okay.
And he's been doing this series like Road to a Grand Clash. He kept referring
the
to like
Ravagers.
RT. Yeah, yeah. Good luck. He didn't say it was easy, so he keeps referring it to RTGC, which I was like losing track of it throughout, and I was like, oh yeah, yeah. And so, anyways, it's a really cool concept, and Max is notorious for saying warbands suck, but then they don't.
Then they win like a tournament. Yeah.
Yeah. So like the only
Yeah.
time he's been right. Actually, he's never been right because he didn't say the witch elves suck. So,
That's true. Yeah.
but he said I suck. He said Wormspat suck, and he said something else. I can't remember. Oh, Dread Pageant. I think he
Oh
said.
yeah.
Right.
Well, they were another one where right off the bat everyone's like their stats are awful.
Yeah.
But, like,
they'll
they're
never
pretty good.
inspire, or they'll never do this.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
chaos, man. It just takes finesse.
Yeah.
Or emo elves, one of the two.
I don't know. I think I just prefer when it's not as obvious and you have to try to figure it out and make it work. Like,
I
that's
agree.
kind of the whole puzzle of the game. So
You know who's really good at that? Carlin.
yeah,
Yeah, when he's not playing Mollog.
he's
Then
pretty good at it when he's playing Mollog too.
No, but I'm just saying, like, finding ways that are not obvious to
Yeah.
make things work, right? Because I feel like Mollog's pretty one-dimensional. But he's done really well with some older warbands in the past, so
Yeah,
like
that's true.
Skaven.
Yeah.
So flex your muscles, maybe raid some souls of your own, and try to figure out how this warband ticks. And I'm looking forward to. I think we're both looking forward to seeing how they actually end up playing. There's an online clash coming around the corner, so if someone wants to take it there and prove the world that they're wrong, the world is wrong rather, then please do so and let us watch and bask in your glory, in your fury of the storm. Aside from that, I think I'm done for this warband. Do you have anything else that you'd like to share?
Nope, I think that is it. So once again, thank you to our patron supporters. If you'd like to join our current patrons, you can do so at patreon.com/pathtoglory. You can find all of our blog content on pathtoglorypodcast.com. If you have any feedback, questions, or comments, let us know on Facebook, Twitter, or Discord at Path to Glory Podcast. Please rate and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen. As always, thanks for listening, and we wish you the best of luck on your path to glory.
Oh my god, this warband is so bad. Wah. That's what the internet sounds like lately. It's just annoying.
Oh.
Hot take, maybe. Maybe that's a bit too divisive. I don't know. I could, we could just be wrong.
Could be wrong.
Are you gonna paint your spinefish like your Discord logo
Yes.
profile?
Yes.
Are you?
I feel like it
going
would be
to-
wrong to do anything else.
Are you gonna like cross out spinefish and put wiggle instead of spine?
Is it written somewhere on the card? I guess
It's on the card.
Yeah,
that's what
I'm just gonna get a
Anytime it says spine, you can say wiggle.
yeah.
I dig
Wiggle,
it.
wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Every time I summon him, I'm gonna go wiggle, 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 wiggle.
You know, it sounds to me. It's like, isn't that a song? It's like, it's like jiggle, 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 boop, 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 boop. You know what I'm talking about?
I think they say.
Oh, no, I think it says wiggle. I think
Yeah.
it's wiggle actually.
Yeah, I think so.
You look at you, man. This is your year, dude. You're getting married. You got a new job. You have a theme song. You made it into the game twice. Jeez, man.
What can I say?
Some people just got it like that.
Mm-hmm.